Okay, so you know how we always dive into these articles about the future? Well, buckle up, because this time we're diving headfirst into the classroom of 2030. And let me tell you, some of this stuff is straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It really is amazing to see how quickly things are changing. I mean, we're not just talking about upgrading whiteboards to smartboards here. This is a fundamental shift in how we think about education.
Right, like remember when tablets first came out, everyone thought that was going to revolutionize learning. But this is like next level. We're talking AI tutors, virtual reality field trips, the whole shebang.
It's definitely a whole new world.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating to me is how these articles highlight a perfect storm of sorts. We have all this incredible tech emerging at the same time that the job market is undergoing this massive transformation.
Yeah, it's like the old model of going to school, getting a job, and sticking with it for life that's so outdated. It's like trying to use a rotary phone to join a Zoom meeting, you know?
Exactly. And one expert even argues that by 2030, physical school buildings could be a thing of the past. Like, can you even imagine?
Wait, hold up. No more school buildings. That's a pretty radical idea. How would that even work?
Well, think about it. Kids today are growing up in a world where learning happens everywhere, right? They've got smartphones, tablets, laptops. They can literally take a virtual field trip to the Amazon rainforest without leaving their bedrooms.
Okay, I get that virtual field trips are cool, but even I know there's more to school than just academics. What about the social aspect? Like, what about hanging out with friends, working on group projects, figuring out the whole social scene?
You bring up a really important point, and it's something these articles address too. Social emotional learning is critical. It's not just about what we learn, but how we learn and who we learn with.
So how do we make sure that doesn't get lost in this rush towards all this high-tech education?
Well, it requires a real shift in thinking. We have to move away from this traditional model of the classroom as a physical space with the desks in rows and embrace the idea that learning can happen anywhere, anytime, with anyone.
Okay, so instead of going to a school building, kids might be learning in virtual spaces, online communities, even out in the real world.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those traditional barriers and creating more flexible, adaptable learning environments.
Like that article about the Tacoma School of the Arts. They're already doing some really innovative things using different buildings downtown for their classes. So instead of being stuck in a classroom, kids are taking architecture classes in real design studios or learning about marine biology at the aquarium.
Exactly. It's about bringing learning to life, making it relevant and engaging.
That's awesome. But not every school can be plumped down in the middle of a bustling city center.
And that's where technology can really bridge the gap. I mean, imagine kids in rural communities going on virtual archaeological digs in Egypt or even experiencing what it's like to walk on the moon through VR.
Okay, now you're just blowing my mind. That's incredible. But it makes you wonder about access. You know, we're talking about some pretty high-tech stuff here. What about students who don't have access to computers, reliable internet, or even just a quiet place to study?
That is a critical issue, absolutely. And it's something we need to address head on. As we explore the potential of technology in education, we have to be incredibly mindful of the digital divide and work to ensure equitable access for all students.
So it's not enough to just hand them a tablet and say, go learn. We need to make sure they have the support, the resources, the infrastructure to actually use that technology effectively.
Exactly. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. Yeah. We need to invest in infrastructure, provide affordable internet access, make sure all students have access to devices and tech support. But it also goes beyond that.
Like addressing the social and economic factors that contribute to the digital divide.
Exactly. It's about creating a truly inclusive digital learning environment where all students feel supported and empowered to thrive.
So we're talking about a massive systemic shift, not just a technological one.
You're right.
But what about the people on the front lines of education? What about the teachers?
Yes, the age-old question. Will robots replace teachers?
Well, with all this talk about AI tutors and personalized learning platforms, it's easy to wonder if teachers will even have jobs in the classroom of 2030.
It's a valid concern, but personally, I believe the role of the teacher will become even more crucial in this new landscape. Just, different.
So instead of being replaced by robots, teachers will become more like learning coaches, guiding students through this new world of personalized education.
Exactly. There'll be mentors, facilitators, guides on the side, helping students navigate this sea of information and develop the skills they need to thrive.
Which are going to be very different skills than what we think of as important today, right?
100%. We're not just talking about memorizing facts and figures anymore. It's about critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, collaboration.
The kinds of skills that are going to be essential in this rapidly changing job market.
Exactly. Which brings us to our next big topic, lifelong learning.
And it's not just about adapting to new jobs, is it? It's about being ready to learn and evolve throughout your entire life. Like, remember that statistic we mentioned about nearly 1 billion jobs being transformed by technology in the next decade?
Yeah, that's a huge GE number of people who will need to adapt and pick up new skills. And it's not just a one-time thing either. This is going to be the new normal, constant upskilling, reskilling. It's like, remember when you just had to learn how to use a computer once and you were good to go?
Right. And then the internet came along and changed everything. And now it feels like everything's changing every 5 minutes. So how on earth are we supposed to prepare kids for that? It's not like we can predict the future and teach them every single skill they'll ever need.
Exactly. And that's why this whole idea of lifelong learning is so crucial. The focus needs to shift from just teaching content to teaching kids how to learn, how to be adaptable, curious, resourceful.
So it's less about memorizing facts and more about developing those essential skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity.
Absolutely. We need kids who can think for themselves, who can analyze information, solve problems, come up with new ideas. Those are the skills that are going to be in high demand no matter what the job market looks like 10, 20 years down the line.
It's almost like we need to teach kids how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because, let's face it, the world is changing so fast that there's always going to be something new to learn.
Exactly. And that can be a little daunting for some people, but it's also incredibly exciting, right? Think about all the possibilities. And that's where technology can play a huge role.
Okay, I was just thinking about all the potential downsides of technology. Like, we've all heard the concerns about screen time, attention spans, the impact of social media.
Well, absolutely. Those are valid concerns. And we can't just ignore them. But at the same time, we can't just stick our heads in the sand and pretend that technology doesn't exist either, because the reality is it's already a huge part of kids' lives.
Right. I mean, think about it. Kids today have grown up with smartphones, tablets, the internet. It's like second nature to them.
Exactly. And that's why I think we need to focus on leveraging technology's potential for good. Because when used thoughtfully and intentionally, it can be an incredible tool for learning.
So how do we actually make that happen? How do we transform these devices from distractions into tools for learning?
Well, for starters, we need to design educational content that's engaging, interactive, relevant to kids' lives.
So making learning more like playing a video game than sitting through a lecture.
Kind of. I mean, the basic idea is to make learning fun and engaging, because when kids are engaged, they're more likely to learn and retain information.
Makes sense. But it can't just be about entertainment, right?
Oh, absolutely. It has to be about more than just bells and whistles. The content still needs to be high quality, rigorous, aligned with learning objectives. But the delivery can be so much more dynamic and engaging than what we traditionally think of as schoolwork.
So what? Were we talking about classrooms where kids are using VR headsets to explore ancient Rome or creating their own video games to learn about coding?
Exactly. And it's not even just about fancy technology. It can be as simple as using interactive whiteboards, online simulations, educational apps. The key is to find ways to make learning come alive for kids, to tap into their natural curiosity and love of exploration.
That all sounds amazing. But let's be real, there are still challenges. Like, how do we make sure all students have equal access to these technologies?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's something we need to address head-on as we move forward. We can't let the digital divide widen. We need to ensure that all students, regardless of their background or zip code, have the opportunity to benefit from these advancements in education.
Because a high-tech education shouldn't be a privilege.
Yeah.
It should be a right.
100%. And that's going to require a concerted effort from policymakers, educators, tech companies, everyone. We need to work together to bridge the digital divide and ensure that all students have the opportunity to thrive in this increasingly digital world.
Okay, so we've talked about the need for lifelong learning, the potential of technology, but there's one big thing we haven't really addressed yet. The human element.
Ah, yes, the heart and soul of education.
Exactly. Because with all this talk about AI tutors and personalized learning platforms, it's easy to wonder, what happens to the role of human connection in education? I mean, can AI really replace the feeling of connecting with a teacher who gets you, who challenges you, who inspires you.
That's the thing, isn't it? AI can process data, personalize lessons, but can it truly inspire a love of learning? Can it nurture those essential human qualities like empathy, curiosity, and resilience? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and what about those aha moments? Those breakthroughs that happen when you finally grasp a concept you've been struggling with, or the feeling of accomplishment after you nail a presentation you were nervous about. Those are all about human connection.
They are. And those moments, those connections, they shape who we become as learners and as people. And honestly, I think as technology advances, we're realizing more and more that those human elements are what make education truly meaningful.
So maybe the classroom of 2030 isn't about replacing teachers with robots, but finding that synergy between human interaction and technological advancement.
Absolutely. Imagine a classroom where AI handles tasks like grading and lesson planning, freeing up teachers to focus on mentoring, guiding, and inspiring students.
It's like instead of competing with technology, teachers become these master conductors, orchestrating this symphony of learning experiences that combine the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And think about the possibilities for personalized learning. AI could track a student's progress, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and tailor lessons to their individual needs.
Meanwhile, teachers can focus on providing that personalized feedback, encouragement, and support that only a human can offer.
Precisely. It's about leveraging the power of technology to create more personalized, engaging, and effective learning experiences without losing sight of the human element. Because at the end of the day, education is about empowering students to reach their full potential, to become curious, compassionate, and engaged citizens of the world.
And that requires more than just technical skills, right? It requires those essential human qualities that no algorithm can replicate.
You got it. Empathy, creativity, critical thinking, resilience. These are the skills that will be in high demand no matter how much technology advances.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the classroom of 2030, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
The future of education is not about choosing between humans or technology, but about finding ways to make them work together to create truly transformative learning experiences for all students.
It's exciting, a little daunting, but ultimately, the future of education is what we make it. So let's make it a future where every student feels supported, inspired, and empowered to reach their full potential.
To the future.
To the future. This has been quite the deep dive, and as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, questioning, and engaging with these crucial conversations about the future of education. Until next time.